What up? This is Myron, and you were listening to the Rye Bread and Mustard, a Mariners podcast, the Down on the Docks on the Other Side of the Tracks, dive bar style podcast of and about the Seattle Mariners that you're listening to on the Odyssey app, or hey, checking this out on YouTube. Doesn't matter where you're getting it from. I'm gonna cut the intro. I'm gonna cut all the house cleaning down. As you know by now, you've seen the headlines, you've seen the tweets, you've been on social media, you've talked to friends and family that are Mariners friends and family. The Jared Kelenic, Marco Gonzalez, and Evan White trade to the Atlanta Braves for some people we don't really know much about just happened. We've got a lot of reactions going on. We were about to do another episode right before we were about to record, about 45 minutes before we were about to record that episode, talking about Ty France and his underwear at Driveline and some just, hypotheticals of what we thought was going to happen. We actually got some action here. Lots of mixed emotions going on, but we're going to get right into it. With me, of course, Hannah up in Edmonds, the guy who broke the news to me as I was driving down the 110 here in Los Angeles, followed by many other texts and all kinds of shit. What's up, Hannah?
Country roads. That's just the one thing that I'm not going to miss.
I am not going to miss the country roads. That's going to be a hit down in Georgia, down in Dixie. And, it's one of those things where it's a polarizing trade, even though this is somebody that, to be fair, has contributed a bit, but not a lot. But just the promise and what was to be is something that from now on is going to be something that we're going to be watching, obviously, and obviously something that Jared is going to take and put that chip on his shoulder. And let's just get to it. Instant reaction, Hanno.
It's really interesting to me. I don't know if you've heard this or thought about it, but when the Mariners started this rebuild way back in the late teens, 20 teens, Kelenic was the centerpiece kind of to get this going. A cost-cutting salary dump of Cano, and to make the Mets take on Cano's salary, they had to trade Sugar Diaz. And wouldn't you know, we in return get Kelenic, and it's kind of the same thing happening again. It's another salary dump with Marco and Evan White, about $20 million this year. And to me, they probably asked for Kelenic to do that. And the Mariners are sending cash to the Braves as well. So it's a shocker. It's so unfortunate to me as a 23-year-old still, he's played 3 years, not full seasons. But giving up on a guy like that for a salary dump, and he's the main guy you started this rebuild with. Sure, he hasn't shown his potential yet of what he's been, but kind of stings.
It does. It's a shocker to me.
Yeah.
To me, the sting remains to be seen. It remains to be seen what Jared turns into. Which, I mean, if we're going off of the start of last season, the first half of the season, and even early into the summer, it looked like he had turned this corner. Again, I feel like if the Mariners were in a better position with their lineup, like if he was in another organization, he might not even have been cracking the major leagues until maybe last year or the year before, and he wouldn't have had so much pressure on his shoulders. He was expected to come in here and be an everyday player at that age. I just feel like the mix of that and what the Mariners were desperate and needed, and him coming up at that time, it definitely affected everything. And then we also know that through the whole struggles that he had, upstairs about everything. And I just feel like the whole situation with the Mariners and Jared Kelenic for sure was mismanaged hugely. As far as him going, I mean, last year, and even going into 2022, I wasn't opposed to trading Jared Kelenic because of, gosh, what we were going to get back. But as the scroll says right here at the bottom of the screen, we got right-handed pitchers Cole Hamels, no, Garrett Cole, no, it's Cole Phillips and Jackson Cower. Can you tell me something about what came in return here, and we can get into maybe a little bit about Marco and Evan White, and then just we'll get back into Jared Kelenic, which I think is the centerpiece, obviously, of this whole trade.
Yeah, from what I've read, one of them, relief pitcher, 27 years old, been in the bigs now for a little while, has a career 5 ERA plus, I believe. And then the other guy is a 20-year-old player that has not played in professional baseball yet. High upside, high draft pick, second round. I've read people say at the time when he was drafted that he might be the steal of the draft, but he ended up having Tommy John surgery, so he hasn't pitched yet. For me, getting back to the Kelenic thing, the reason it's a shocker to me, and I'm with you, it doesn't surprise me that he's traded. It's just shocking to me that he, it's more of an organizational thing. As an organization that pumped up World Series, or bust, we're close, once we got our core together, we're going to spend. None of that happened, and then to put him as part of the salary dump, and I'm surprised with all those things. I could see a part of it, and I felt like they sold low on them, what they're getting in return. But I don't know enough about these guys, but it's just part of the salary dump, and to put Kelenic in it is surprising to me. Yeah, I just don't think a team that is, wants to be a major or a World Series champion, says they're going to spend money, needs to make a salary dump of a player like Kelenic, who's making no money, to get rid of other money, than to possibly sign another big name. Like, you can't do both. It's just more frustration for me with a Mariner ownership.
Yeah, as it is right now, it is very frustrating. I'm looking right here on X or Twitter. Let's just go right to Ryan Divish. Let's check this out. Seattle Mariners beat writer holds the Mariners organization pretty damn accountable, to be honest with you. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he reports, and he's many times has stated that he's not a fan and not a fan of the organization, but he treats it, he doesn't cheer for the Mariners. He just reports on them. And yeah, I think he's very fair in what he's written so far. And so yeah, it's interesting what the fan base has said already. I mean, people are flying off the handle.
Yeah, let's just go from like what he said here. Ken Rosenthal seemed to have broken this through The Athletic. Sources tell The Athletic. Rest of the details not known. But more importantly, why I wanted to pull up this was because he said, here's DePoto's statement, quote, "I want to thank Marco, JK, Evan for their contributions to our club. All three played key roles at different stages of our growth over the past several seasons," quote. Said president of baseball operations, Jared DePoto, quote, "As we continue to work through this offseason with the goal of improving our team for 2024 and beyond, we believe the additions of Jackson Cower and Cole Phillips as well as the roster and payroll flexibility created tonight will move us closer to that goal. It's hard to swallow, but I get it. I don't know why. I guess Jared, yeah, like you said, Jared Kelenic would have to be the piece to take on Marco's contract. Evan White, again, we'll get into his contract or his Mariners story here in a second. And we gave them cash. Is that correct?
Yes.
So there has to be corresponding moves. But then Ryan Divish also said, it is more than fair for Mariners fans to ask why Dipoto is being forced into creating payroll flexibility, even if the end goal is bringing in a player on a big contract. So
Yeah.
I guess this is the big "what the fuck is going on" moment. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was trying to say, and he articulated better. Why do you have to get rid of a player like Kelnick to, have payroll flexibility to be able to sign somebody else? I mean, just listening to you read that statement, I feel like that's just a cut and paste with the names and things we've heard many times with the freaking Mariners as far as their statements. We thank X, blah, blah, blah. We welcome the two new guys. We thank the guys that were with us for how they contributed, and it gives us a lot of flexibility as we continue to make our goal to the World Series. I mean, blah, 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 blah.
Get ready to play hardball in the Kingdom.
Take me to the ball game. I want to see the Ants. The Mariners are playing hardball. Did it again and again and again. Did it again.
Princess Tours, the vacation company, brings you the best show in baseball when the San Diego Chicken plays hardball with the Seattle Mariners and the Baltimore Orioles tonight in the Kingdom.
But back to Kelnic, just to wrap it up, unless you want to keep going on with it. I think this is a really good thing for him. The Braves are a great organization. Kelnic is going to be in a lineup that I had hoped Seattle would build for him. He's going to have no pressure on him. Sure, he struggled at times, high fastball, recognizing pitch, facing lefties. But Atlanta's Atlanta. They looked at Kelnic for a reason, and they think they can fix him or improve to what his potential is. I think it's going to be a great thing for him, and I would expect him to really have a good season.
And you add a veteran left-handed pitcher to a team with that lineup. I mean, Atlanta Braves right now out the gate, as far as this trade, in this sandbox, they have won. If you're Atlanta right now, you got to be ecstatic about this. In fact, oh, there we go. If you're watching on YouTube, where's that? You got that Braves blanket going. Oh, keep yourself warm tonight. It's probably chilly up there in Washington, isn't it?
Yeah, it's raining like Mariners fans' tears coming down out of the sky. Just another shocker.
Now, you a key word that you said right there. You said Braves lineup looking. So as you were going on there, I pulled up the fan graphs. They already updated it. They already have Jared Kelenic starting. You want to hear it? You got Ronald Acuna, you got Ozzy Albies, you got Austin Riley, you got Matt Olson, you got Marcell Ozuna, you got Michael Harris II, you got Sean Murphy, you got Jared projected in there, hitting low in the lineup at 8.
For me, I really like that outfield. I mean, Acuna, and Kelnic and left, and then their center fielder, who we saw up in Seattle, wow.
You look at Atlanta and you look at the Dodgers last year. These are two teams that you thought was going to be a shoe-in for the NLCS. Shit happened. They're adding on to their team somebody that he's got zero pressure to carry this team. And, he's aligned himself up in a lineup with another big superstar on the same or maybe just a little bit above the level of Julio.
Yeah, I mean, that outfield is defensively, yikes, they're good. Acuna, yeah, you mentioned Harris, yeah, rookie of the year, young player. I mean, it's funny you mentioned the Dodgers too in that part of your talk there. I mean, they were in on Kelenic last year, or it was rumored that they inquired about him. So it's just interesting that these two quality franchises are asking about JK, and is this going to be something that comes back and bites the Mariners as far as what he turns into? But he would have never reached, in my opinion, his potential with the Mariners as what he probably will with the Braves.
Think about it. If you're the Mets, now he's back in the division, the first people to get rid of him. I don't feel like Jared Kelenic got a fair shake at being brought up without the pressure of being like, you need to perform right now because we're in a pennant race and we don't have any other options because we didn't bring anybody in free agency and we didn't do it again. And we put you in this situation again. And
we're going to hit you lead off. Remember that?
Yeah. But I do feel like if he was brought up a different way, if he was in a different organization where he didn't have as much pressure on him to be like, hey, we're putting the team on your back. You're going to save us. And you have to play every single day. I mean, the plan last year was that he was going to be a platoon player. And to his credit, the people that he was paired with to be a platoon player, AJ Pollock, whomever, didn't pan out. And he was showing signs of, hey, he could be an everyday hitter, everyday player. His average dipped after April, but I think we talked about it on here where it was going like, wow, yeah, he has been kind of slumping, but you wouldn't know because of every hit he had and everything that he did was like big moment, big hustle, great play in the outfield. Like he contributed something to the team positively so much. And then you have the water cooler thing, and then it kind of triggers you back to like, oh, see, he's not changed. But again, he's young. So it's just one of those it's always going to be what if moments, especially if, he turns his career in the direction that we all think he can. And I think the biggest thing to me is, again, the return of what you got for him, why he was part of this deal. I get it, but I also am like, that's the part that sucks. Like we said when we were starting here, like I could see if you made a trade maybe last year or something for something that you really needed. Like we need this right now. And, getting somebody who hasn't played in the major leagues and somebody with like, the pedigree of the other guy, you're like, it doesn't feel good. And do you have something to say to that before we check out some fan reactions here?
No, I was just gonna say basically what I was trying to say earlier was the Mariners have been talked about as a possible trade partner with the Rays. Rosarina, maybe Lowe, their second baseman, also their third baseman. Maybe two of those guys you flip and get for a Wu or a Miller. You sign Snell.
And that's what we're going to be talking about this week, right?
So basically, the Kelenic thing, yeah, it's a stunner, but let's say you get those guys or anything. Those guys are quality major league hitters already. They've proven that. And then you get a Cy Young Award winner, you probably do have a better team. So it all depends on what the next moves are, these corresponding moves for the Mariners. Absolutely. And for me, it's all about trust. And I don't have the trust in them right now. So we have to wait and see.
I do feel like no matter what, where the Mariners go from this, when you isolate this just to right now, unless one of these pitchers just turns into like the holy fucking god of pitching, I feel like Atlanta definitely for where they're at, definitely this is a good trade for the Atlanta Braves all around. Evan White, see what happens with him. Marco Gonzalez, healthy, is going to help your team, especially with a lineup like that. It's a great fit. Jared Kelenic, no pressure. End of the lineup on a stud lineup. Great
I agree with all that.
Great
Uh,
trade for
yeah, a lot of things I've seen people think Atlanta fleeced the Mariners. Like you mentioned, it's hard to tell. That one pitcher is like, he's 20 years old, hasn't pitched once in professional baseball. He could be 2 to 3, probably more likely 3 years away. So, yeah, it's one of those cost-cutting saves like we mentioned many times on here, and we'll see if one of these guys, the young guy that hasn't pitched, will be some sort of piece of this trade.
Daniel Kramer at the time of this. We got another one that comes in here. I don't know if you saw this. Jerry DiPoto indicated that the Mariners intend to be industrious with the payroll flexibility that tonight's trade fixed up. We do intend to go out and put it to immediate use to make our team better. So I'm going to hang on the immediate word.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very funny man. Please welcome from Seattle, Jay Buhner.
Here's one for you. Horse walks into a bar. Bartender says, "Hey, why the long face?" Here's one for you.
Aren't you glad he decided to play right field for the Mariners instead?
The real Seattle Mariners fans on that's a group that's on Facebook. Ryan DeVault runs that. Cool guy. This one's a pretty interactive page. They've actually been on the news and stuff for some stories and things that nature. There's a poll out here. It says, what is your immediate reaction to the Kelenic Gonzalez White trade? And we'll get into Gonzalez and White too. But it is 14% of the people are excited. 26 are indifferent, 60% enraged. Here's somebody, Aaron Bet says, huge bummer if no big moves comes in on the horizon. I think we can both agree with that, right? Like if we make these trades and then you have an off season like you did last season as far as signing people, then yes. But I don't know how you can get worse than we gave them a D- grade for what they did as a whole in the off season last year. Oh, and then we do have some people that have chimed into us. I do want to get their stuff out. We got Parmesan LeBron hit in here. He said, the salary dump of Marco cost us Jared, is what he said. Evan White was nothing, did nothing, and unfortunately, another prospect that didn't materialize into a pro. Kelenic will likely continue to mature and maybe even reach all-star form. Maybe another Mariner we will likely see playing for the World Series. It's kind of a thing that happens. Very true. And he goes, if this isn't a sign to go really big, like an Ohtani or several other big names, we'll see Stanton size writing on the wall. He also said, let me see. God, this is a long one. I'm gonna have to do this. He goes, well, I'll cut down to the chase. I'm putting most of the fault on Stanton, but DePoto and Service have to be considering their next destinations if this organization isn't serious about winning the magical window with these young studs under our team control. At least we get to root for the Huskies football team in their quest for the national championship.
Yeah, true. I mean, the thing about this trade too is you're getting back pitching, and this is something we know that the Major League Club needs help in hitting. So that's another aspect of it that bugs people too.
Yeah, and to be fair, the Mariners are the bullpen and pitching whisperers. They find something that somebody has in their arsenal that maybe they're not using all the time. That means they've been proven to do that. So let's not discredit them or count them out on that.
And they're the organization that's won 90 games 3 years in a row and only been in the playoffs once.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm tired of the bullpen whisper, the pitching whisper. Get in the playoffs, win some games.
Well, and the game is changing again. Offense is trending back. Moneyball is dying out. look at the two teams. We've talked about it before in the World Series last year. I think they were 19th and 20th in pitching. But also they got hot at the right time. So it's not like that's everything. So Grandma Norma, we'll give her a call. 92.5, almost going to be 93 in January. January 27th, she'll be 93. She's one of our correspondents.
Hello.
Well, Grandma, we're calling
Yeah.
you hot take. We just need a quick hot take. You heard the news. Anno's right with me right here. Jared Kelenic, no longer a Mariner. He's an Atlanta Brave. What's your feelings on it?
My feelings are on this is I really don't care. He wasn't one of my favorites. He's the water kicker cooler, isn't he? The one that kicked the water cooler?
That's who he is. He was very passionate.
Yeah, well, maybe he could go get a job with the Seahawks as a kicker if things don't work out with a lot of Braves.
So you didn't like his attitude?
No, I didn't care for him at all. But I was always under the impression that you kind of liked him when they brought him in up there.
I did.
But
I did, and Hanno really liked Jared Kelenic.
Well, he wasn't my favorite, I'll tell you that. So I can't. I wish him luck, but I can't shed any tears over him going.
Yeah. So you're looking forward to what Jerry DiPoto is going to add to the team here.
Well, I'm looking forward to the game starting. So.
Right. Okay.
I hope they get some new pitchers and leave the rest of the team kind of alone.
All right. There you go. All right, Grandma. We'll talk to you later.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. And then we also had our boy who just did the last episode, one of our guys here. He said,
"Yeah, the plan is going to be worked out in 2028, right? Wasn't that what he was saying? That's what Jerry's plan was. 2026, we're going to be 2027, you know. So we're getting closer to that time.
Have yourself a sip of that that high noon. Let me read this." He goes, "Maybe there's another shoe to drop, but them shredding all the salary they can with whispers of not being genuine about adding to this roster in a meaningful way is the biggest fuck you to the fan base since batting Adam Kennedy cleanup in 2006. I told you he's changed. He has changed. He used to be Mr. Don't worry about it. DiPoto's got a plan to go in like, all right, it's time for the plan now. That's fair. We did talk to the ninja. I woke him up with the news and he goes, "What did we get? Acuna?" And I said, "What?" We got this guy. And then he hung up the phone and said he's sleeping. He had to get up early in the morning. So as far as also Chris Jensen, I just want to let all the co-hosts here get their things. And he goes, he says Soto or Ohtani. He goes, "I think that'll make it better." He says, "But dude, what are the Mariners doing? Are we in a full rebuild mode?" I think there's corresponding moves to be made. And I also feel like too, when we're looking here, hearing what people are saying, here's a random one. The Mariners say that they're in their contending window. They say they can't afford Ohtani. Then they have to shred as much salary as possible. What the heck? What are we doing? Yes, Kelenic is gone, but it isn't like we traded J.P. Crawford or we traded Cal Raleigh, God forbid, or we traded. What would be the reaction if we did trade one of these pitchers that we don't want to trade? It seems to me, I'll say this now, knock on wood. It seems to me we were going with this episode before this all happened. We were going to talk about Ty France of like, what is a Ty France? And we'll talk about it tomorrow. What's a Ty France look like at age 29, coming out of Driveline and just redoing everything?
Griffey makes a leaping catch. Throw to Griffey at second.
Gotcha.
Stop or play.
Another victim.
Griffey working on a shutout. Gets the sign from Griffey.
Don't shake me off.
Here's the wind and the pitch. I smashed to third. Got me stopped by Griffey. The throw to Griffey at first. In time.
I'm dead set against this human cloning thing.
The Seattle Mariners. You gotta love these guys.
Here you go, kids.
And the Mariners are flying very high.
Let's get to this back half of this trade. Let's start with Evan, and then let's get into Marco, because Marco had much more of a substantial imprint on the Mariners team. And Evan White, it just never another like just another one of these didn't pan out. Ackley, Miller, even throw Kelenic, whomever into this group of. It seemed promising. Never could really stay healthy, obviously. Not really. I mean, he could not stay healthy, could never really get that bat going, but an absolute wizard with the glove over there at first base.
Yeah, that was his calling card. Won the Gold Glove in his first full season. The Mariners then, what's that?
60-game season. Let's be fair.
Yeah, first full season for him. But yeah, couldn't get the bat going, like you mentioned. The Mariners offered him a contract that was one
24.
of those that is appealing to a young player who hasn't proven himself. But the Mariners have high upside on him and hope that it will work out. It turned out really good for him and burned the Mariners because he was injury plagued, like you mentioned. And that was about it.
Yeah, and to be fair, White's 27. Like I said, his career's been defined with injuries. He agreed to a $24 million six-year contract before he even played in the major leagues. He did win that Gold Glove. He appeared in 30 games in 2021. Then we haven't seen him. But he's owed $7 million next year and $8 million in 2025, and then a $2 million buyout. So at this pace, he's going to make 20. He's going to make $26 million or $24 million, excuse me, by the time he's 29, and probably will have played less than 200 games in the major league. So you're right. It worked out financially great for him.
Yeah. It's the risk he took. He, could have bet on himself, but with injuries and everything else, that's real good money for a young man who made the pros early and has had a career that was hampered by injuries at age 29 by the time he's done, if he makes the show or continues or not.
As far as a Mariner, no real impact. Marco Gonzalez, the last of the Mohicans from the 2018 season. It's one of Jerry's this organization's very first big signings. It was him, and then they got Kelenic in the trade, but this was the guy that was the anchor of the team. Love-hate relationship with the fans because he doesn't throw hard, but lots of quality starts, lots of innings, eaten a big inning eater over the last couple of years. Last year he was injured. Losing him, you're also it's $12.5 million off the books. And not to sound like a dick, but he really had no impact on losing him doesn't really, to me, hurt the current Mariners. I say that now, but as far as the pitching depth, and he really didn't have much of an impact, if any, last season. What's the thoughts on Marco?
Marco was part of the trade that sent high prospect Tyler O'Neill, and Marco came back. A Washington guy, went to Gonzaga University, a guy that wanted to be here. We mentioned last episode that you never really hear of guys. Snell wants to be here, but Marco wanted to be here. And he performed in that trade, in my opinion. He was everything you would ask for. He was your number one starter at the time when you were just starting to build your rotation. He performed very well, got you innings, got you wins, and did quite fine. As you start to get on in the season and through later years, your expectations got higher with other guys coming up with younger, better stuff, and he got moved down. And he still helped out and did his thing. You knew every time Marco went out there, he was going to give you his best. Sure, he gave up some home runs. Sure, there was a few games that were just dogs. But in the end, his last season of playing, or his in the postseason with the Mariners, he was left off the playoff roster.
Yeah.
So I got nothing bad to say about Marco Gonzalez. He's a quality Mariner, did everything he could through his abilities, and that's all I can say. Good luck to him. I hope he wins a ring.
I hope he doesn't. I hope the Mariners win these rings. But I when I look at Marco Gonzalez, you said it right there, and which takes me back to what I was saying. Like, there really hasn't been an impact, or he doesn't make an impact to me to lose him to what's going on right now with the Mariners. And you look at somebody also that got a good contract. This is what happens when you're at the end of your contract. You're usually moved sometimes in the middle of the season. I'm sure if Marco was healthy last year and was pitching with the additions of who we were bringing up, I bet you'd see him. He would have got moved. I bet you there would have been a lot of inquiries to get him. So for him to move, it finally happened. A lot of us last year were looking for him and Flexen to be moved, if you remember.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if he didn't get hurt, there's a possibility we wouldn't have seen either one of Wu or Miller or Hancock, So it's a long season, and unfortunately, he got hurt and gave other guys opportunities. And like you mentioned, he makes some money. And when you make money with the Seattle Mariners, you can be expendable, and that's what happened. He was a good team leader for the Mariners, that's for sure. You always heard he was a clubhouse leader.
But it was in Seattle's Kingdom where the Wild Kingdom really had its day.
The most frightful delay of all time was the attack of the killer kitten.
My gosh, what is that? Is that a rat?
A muskrat or a cat?
Let me see that. It's a cat.
We had, some stray cats that, took up residence in the kingdom for a long time. Well, this one particular night, one of the cats gets on the field just running around all over the place.
Finally, another attendant picks it up, and the attendant that got scratched is...
Oh, he's in pain. Look at him.
Boy, that cat is mad.
Oh,
and he got rid of it.
He's starting to run off the field and take care of the cat. All of a sudden, this cat just munches down on his finger. That's a tough little guy. The cat won't let go, and all of a sudden, Bert is twirling around like a top, trying to get rid of this cat. He's going like this and trying to get the cat, and the cat's hung out his finger like this, and he's in a whole lot of pain. Finally, he gets rid of the cat.
A fussy feline with claws.
That was kind of funny.
That cat has gone crazy.
So we'll be back this week. I don't know if there's anything more to talk about. This was just a raw reaction to the Jared Kelenic era is over and never really got going. Like I said at the top, I feel like it was mismanaged by the Mariners, but I'm not pointing all the blame on like why things didn't pop off. Ultimately the individual's got to go out there and do it. But it's when you look at the trade again, I feel like I'm repeating myself. I know I am, but it's just it's going to be one of those ones that everybody's going to be tracking and watching, especially in Mariner Twitter world, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got Seawald and Eugenio in Arizona that we got rid of, and now, the trio of those guys down in Atlanta. But like I said in the very beginning, the best part of this whole trade is we don't have to hear the Mariners play out every freaking time he's at the plate or gets a walk to first base. Country roads, kiss it goodbye.
That is the plus side. That is the glass half full, or partially full, or that was bad. That was bad. And listen, it's going to play good down in Dixie, like we said. It's going to play good over there. Well, maybe it'll get maybe they won't like it. Maybe the Georgia people will be like, West Virginia, we got an issue with,
Yeah.
But we're going to be back this week. We had a bunch of like hot stove stuff we were going to talk about. Possibly, I was thinking of some smoke with Tampa Bay. But look, the Mariners have shedded a lot of payroll. So there was no excuse in the first place. Now there's just like no fucking excuse not to go out and make something happen right now. I mean, if you bring in a Cody Bellinger, you bring in a Juan Soto into the outfield, I get this trade. Plus, who knows? We're talking $40-some million off the payroll for this year. I would think this brings you back into the ballpark of the Ohtani situation. And we started, getting ready for our show with the tweet that went out or report that went out that you sent me, and it's made its rounds, but it is that the Mariners were what was it? They basically were going in to go shopping for Ohtani, thinking they were getting him at the Nordstrom racks, but they're shopping at Nordstrom's. Well, maybe now they have enough money in their pockets to be going into the regular Nordstrom's, because as far as we're looking here with these numbers, they have the money to do it. They had the money before this. We know what revenue stream the Mariners bring in. And again, it's the same old conversation. Where you've led us. Where do we point the finger at?
Yeah, I mean, always comes down to the almighty dollar with the Mariners. So we'll see.
Well, anyways, thanks for checking in with us. If you're checking in with us here, with that being said, we'll be back this week. Thank you for liking, subscribing, checking us out on YouTube, Odyssey, wherever the fuck you're getting this from. It's been a long day. It's a long week of football. We didn't know that this was going to happen. We were very dialed in on the episode that we were about to do, and then this just dropped. With that being said, take me home, Country Road, Hanno. You know what time it is.